advice video. But anyways, so when you're young, you want to, with as few partners as possible, you want to sow your oats and, be satisfied sexually, like with consensual adults. And so you'd want to do this and don't break the law. But do that, and then so once you've done that, and once you've had a few laps around the track, if you will, then you want to try to dial in a relationship. So if you're in a relationship, then if it never get into a relationship with an end date on it, right? Like you might have, like if you're a guy, when you're trying to, because as a guy, they say the guys are the keys and women are the locks. So as a guy, we're the keys. So we're going to try many locks. It's a numbers game. You have to try to hit on quite a few women, and then because women get to be more selective, right? So you got to try to hit on many women, and then some are going to say yes to you, right? So anyways, it's a numbers game, and so you try to be charming and whatnot, right? Anybody can be funny and learn charm. But that being said, so when you get into a relationship, never try to win her heart if you only want her body, right? Like say stuff well, maybe like, I'm not really into a relationship. I'm not mentally in this spot to have a relationship right now. But why don't we hang out and see what we could do, and we could just try to leave emotions on the side and just let her have fun, basically. And then just kind of reaffirm that, because be like, okay, well, I like what we have, but and we're not allowing emotions to get in the way. And then, because eventually what happens is every relationship, somebody likes the other person more, and it's sad, right? Because somebody's heart gets broken, right? So that's why if you've ever seen Wedding Crashers, the lyric that like what Vince Vaughn does to the redhead in the movie is you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy that wins her heart, right? Because in the movie she was a virgin. Yeah, the spoiler, she was a virgin, and she fell in love with him, right? Because she had sex, it was her first time, and that happens, right? So you don't want to win her heart if you only want to get in her pants, right? So you don't want to use lines from that are just going to totally captivate her, where she's just magnetized by you. But you want to be able to say some, like, watch maybe Keys to the VIP or something like that, ways to meet women without trying to break their heart, right? Because if you break their heart, that's what goes around comes around. Eventually you're going to meet your number. The girl that you want to fall in love with is going to be taken, or she's going to break your heart, and you're going to see what happens, and it doesn't feel good, right? So that being said, so now just say you're in a relationship, and now it's reached its course. It's ran its course, and your relationship is done. So you got to be like, okay, well, what did I like about this person, and what did I dislike about this person, right? So make a list, right? Because you were in a relationship with them, especially if you live with them, right? You were in a relationship, so you clearly liked them enough to live with them. So there's things that you liked about them. So you write a list and be like, okay, I like this about them, this about them, this about them, but I didn't like this, and that, right? And then you're like, okay, well, that's what I want in a partner. Then be like, okay, well, now as a partner, how can I grow as a partner to be a better partner for my next relationship so it doesn't dissolve, right? And so one thing as a guy, right, an easy thing to do as a guy, right, they call it the honey-do list, right? So your wife or your girlfriend will have a list for you to do eventually, like kind of things that she wants you to do. So just do those things as fast as possible, right? And to try to take care of them. And so that being said, so you want to grow as a partner, and then you want to find the best partner. So the next time you're on a date, like, I'll never lie on a date. Like, maybe, but before you start getting physical, be completely honest with them. Like for me, like for instance, I like to smoke cannabis, and I like smoking tobacco, and I like to gamble. So that's a deal breaker for some women, right? So like, I'm not going to beat around the bush, right? If I'm on the first date, I'm going to bring up those three things, because I'm not going to be hiding the fact that I smoke cannabis or smoke tobacco or gamble, right? So I'm not going to be sneaking, because you never want to sneak in a relationship, because you're lying to them, and so it's guaranteed gonna, whenever you lie, the truth eventually comes out. So that being said, so you want to be forthcoming. You want to be like, okay, well, like for me, for instance, I could cook, but I don't enjoy cooking, right? But I don't mind doing dishes, right? Or, like, I hate folding laundry, but I don't mind running down and throwing the laundry in, changing the washer dryer, running up and down the stairs. I don't mind doing that, but I just hate the physical task of folding laundry or cooking. I don't mind baking, but I don't. So these are things that, like, if I'm on a date, like, especially if I'm really into it, I'd be like, oh yeah, I smoke cannabis, I smoke tobacco, and I like to gamble. And what do you do, right? I'm trying to pick, and then once again with the list that you have, like what you liked about your last partner, you're gonna see if they have those characteristics. Right, so then you're like, okay, well, she has that, she does that, right? I love that about her. I love that. I love that. So now the no list, the pros, like, so you got the pros, but you also want to go to the cons. Be like, so how do you feel about this? You don't want to be like, well, my last ex did this and I did not. Like, you don't want to come across like that, because you don't want to compare them to you don't want to bring up your ex ever on a date, right? But you want to, like, gradually, you want to find out these questions, like, so you don't make a mistake. You don't want a train wreck of a relationship, right? Because some people, like my mom, for instance, she liked the wrong type of guy. She was attracted to this type of guy, and then eventually she would dislike him, and then the relationship would dissolve. So she was attracted to the wrong type of guy. So she didn't grow from each relationship to be able to rule out the things that she didn't like about these guys. Right, and I don't know what she liked about these guys. Well, I do know what she liked about that. Like, she liked long hair and stuff like that, right? But she liked this character about these guys. But then there was things I don't know what she disliked. But so she never grew. So, like, right now, I haven't been in a relationship for a long time because, I'm trying to become a monarch. And, and right now there's a reason why I haven't. But anyways, so I'm not in the point. So I've kind of forgot. Well, I didn't forget what I liked about my ex-wife, because I was with her for 13 years. But I kind of forgot what I probably did wrong and what have you, right? So I would have to be in another kind of I wouldn't start a relationship and just to see this, but there might be a relationship that would kind of wouldn't work out too well, because I would have to grow as a partner again, right? I would have to try to consciously be like, okay, like, as a guy, for instance, like, we lift up the seat to pee or whatnot, right? So make sure you put it down when you're done, and just little things like that, and be conscientious, right, of your partner, basically. Like, I wrote a song, this country song, basically you do the things that she can't, and then maybe she'll give you loving as a reward, right? Because you're, if she's doing all the chores and all that stuff, and then you're expecting, like, if she's taking care of your kids, cooking you dinner, doing all the chores, and then now you're doing nothing, and you expect her to have sex with you all the time, then you're going to be disappointed when she says no, right? Because she doesn't have any energy, right? So you got to help out and do things, and so ideally, when you move in with somebody, because really, as soon as you find out that you're hooked on a person, and like when you're not with them, and it's like, wow, I wonder what they're doing right now. It's like, okay, well, I wonder what they're doing. And then you text them, and then they're like, oh, hey, I miss you. Did you miss me? Blah, 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 all this stuff. Kind of, you're going back and forth, but you're always like, you just can't, you obsess about them, right? At that point. And then you start going on dates. But what you do is, I suggest taking a trip, like, say, I live in Canada, right? So I would want to, say, in the wintertime, if I was with her, like, in the wintertime, I'd say, let's go to Cuba or the Dominican or Jamaica or somewhere in the Caribbean where it's warm, and then go there. And then, like, you want to spend 24/7 with them before you move in, basically. Because when you spend 24, like, when she's coming over to your place or you're going over to her place, everything's perfect, because you're able to everybody puts on a show for a while until, but once you're with them 24/7, then you get to see their true character. That's when the gloves come off, right? So then when you do fight, you want to learn how to constructively fight, and to either agree to disagree or fight to, like, come to a common understanding. And you never want to, like, as a woman, you never want to cry over the same thing twice if you could control it, right? If you could control things, you never want to cry over something. Like, you never want to get upset over things that you could control. You're not a tree. Move, grow, or change. You could change your behavior, change your outcome, get a new job, right? Move to a new city. If you don't like your circumstances, change, move. Make a new decision, especially if you don't have kids. Make a new decision, take a chance, right? And like, there's an expression, nobody gets out of this life alive, so most people don't. And so that means don't go into your corpse, like your grave, without any scrapes or bruises. Take some chances in life. I'm not saying be reckless and get into an accident or anything, but like the moral, like the premise, like metaphorically anyways, right? Like, is take some chances, take a risk, right? Like, if you always wanted to go to Paris by yourself, go to Paris. Do it. Take the chance. You're going to love it. You're going to be scared at first, but then you're going to love it. As soon as you get back, you're going to be like, wow, that was such a fulfilling, rewarding experience. Right. And then because once you get used to doing things alone, because I've been single for a long time, right? It's empowering, right? It's because like they say if somebody could eat at a restaurant alone, it's a very powerful thing. And it's true, because you realize you don't need other people to entertain you to feel satisfied. You're satisfied with your own company. And it's powerful. Like, unfortunately, I've been single too long. I've been almost single too long that it would be very hard for me to get into a relationship because I'd be giving up so much. Like, I don't have to call anybody to say, hey, I feel like doing this, right? But at the same time, I don't have anybody calling me to check on my day, right? So it's a flip. It's a double-edged sword, right? So there's a flip side to that coin, right? So you do want companionship, and there's that song by Shaggy, who's going to have your back when it's all done when you're old, right? And that's true, right? I'm 47, so like right now it's not that big of a deal. Right, but by the time I would be 60, I'd be like, okay, well, I should start thinking about companionship, like getting into a relationship, about companionship for the remaining part of my life, if I had a typical biology, what have you, right? So then, so you could spend the last 20, 30 years of your life with a companion, and so maybe a little bit less sex, but it's more rewarding. So ideally, you want to fall in love with your best friend, right? And go from there, because at first, when you get into a relationship, all your friends are calling you, and then but so you're like, oh no, I can't do this. I'm with so and so, and then they call you again. Oh, I'm with so and so tonight. We can't do this. But eventually, your friends stop calling you, right? So you don't want to do that when you first meet this new person. You want to still have your old friends and be like, and just let the new person know. Be like, hey, we gotta keep an active relationship with our friends because. It's just this really smart guy named Christian told me to do so. Learn from his mistakes. We're learning from his mistakes, right? Because that's what happened with me. Like, my friends would call me, and then I'd be like, no, I'm with my ex-wife was Dawn. Her name is Dawn. So I'm like, okay, I'm hanging out with Dawn, right? So I'm not doing anything tonight. And then they just stop calling, right? Like, you do that for like say a year or two of that, then they just stop calling. Right, like if you keep on like burning the plans or whatever, right? They just stop calling you, right? So then eventually, like that's why when you're 20, you have like they say, you're better off with 4 quarters than 100 pennies. So when you're 20, you have about 100 friends, but when you're 30 or 40, you got about 4 friends, right? But it's even better to have one friend, one loony. In Canada, we got $1. It's called a loony, right? So you're even better off to have one solid friend that would never violate you, somebody that doesn't want to sleep with your partner, and somebody that you wouldn't want to sleep with their partner, that you could completely trust 100% unequivocally. So that being said, right, like, so girls, like when you go on dates, go on many dates, and guys, go on many dates, but don't do anything sexually. But if you're a girl especially, go on many dates with these guys and then like critique them, right? Critique them, and then be forthcoming. Once again, tell them exactly, like, find out what you'd like and be like, oh, like I really, appreciate, like, how do you feel about this or that or whatever you like, right? Whatever your idiosyncrasies are in life, just mention it. Be like, or, because some people are like just say you're OCD, right? You like to clean all the time. But then the person you love, like you're infatuated with, but like they just, like, for me, like for instance, I don't make my bed. The only time I would make my bed is if a woman was coming over, because I mess it every night, right? So I'd make it for my partner, don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna make my bed just to mess it up at nighttime, because the first thing, like when sheets are tucked in underneath, the first thing I do is waste time untucking my sheets. Like when I go to a hotel, that's the first thing I do is untuck the sheets. I hate it. Like, so I calculated it. Basically, if you spend 5 minutes a day, like you waste basically 9-10 days of your life making a bed, right? So if I was in the army, I'd have to make my bed, so the whole team wouldn't have to do push-ups, right? But so anyways, so you let people know what you like to do, especially if you're gonna do, like, so ideally by the 3rd date. So like if you're a woman, like for what I would expect from a woman, ideally would be kind of just conservative. The first date, And then like the second date, like you want his eyes to pop out of his head, like, wow, oh my God, look at this woman, like she's amazing, like look at her, whatever, right? But then by the third date, you either want to go over to her house or her to come over to your place, and then you guys keep it where she has a scrunchie on or jogging pants, and you keep it casual, and then physicality could happen, right? But you want to slowly, ease into it, if you will. But be forthcoming, and then always tell them what you like and what you don't like, and always critique after you're done a relationship, and then try to grow as a partner, and so you don't get your heart broken, right? Because if you grow as a partner, then you'll never get your heart broken, or you're less likely to get your heart broken, and then you're going to have a more rewarding relationship. But then if you're forthcoming when you go on your next date, should that relationship expire, then that means you're less likely to be disappointed, because you're like, or they're less likely to be disappointed because you're telling them like, hey, I'm this, I'm that, and that. So they can't be like, you didn't tell me that you smoked cannabis. It's like, fucking right, I did. The first date I told you that I love smoking cannabis. Right, I love it, right? But anyways, so that being said, you want to be forthcoming, but at the same time, it'd be like, okay, well, I don't really like to do this, and how do you feel about that, right? So then you're kind of critiquing them, because like, if you're attractive, unfortunately, you get, well, it's fortunate for you if you're attractive, but it's like, wow, congratulations, you got a pretty face, right? You got a pretty soul, right? And I seen this thing on TikTok, it was fantastic. He might be good for your whole, but is he good for your soul? Right? So just remember that, guys. You want to be good for both. And women, you want to find a man that's good for both. So that being said, you want to critique them and figure out, like, so you're not disappointed. There's nothing, like, you want to try to get all the skeletons out of the closet right away before your feelings are hooked, before it gets physical. And, because if not, masturbate. Nobody gets pregnant. Nobody gets pregnant when you masturbate. And that being said, if you do masturbate, like, there's a profiling system. So if you do masturbate to videos. Never masturbate to still pornography, because like pictures, because people could superimpose subliminal images, and they could cultivate a sexual behavior in you that is unlike your natural character. So that being said, you should know your sexual orientation as soon as you start puberty. As soon as you start puberty, like all of a sudden, like girls, like I remember, for me, it was grade 8. For grade 8, they went from cooties to cuties in no time. In grade 8, like, in grade 7, I was just running with my friends. I was getting mud all over myself. I didn't care. Grade 8's like, hey, Dad, could you buy me some cool jeans? Right? You start caring, right? So they go from cooties to cuties in no time, right? So right? And or the opposite, if you're homosexual, it's like all of a sudden you're in a grade 9 phys ed class, you're in the locker room, and then all of a sudden you see some guy get undressed in his boxer shorts, and you think, wow, right? But for me, it was the Sears catalog. I had there wasn't online resources, if you know what I mean, nowadays. So I had the Sears catalog, the bra section, to help me get through my high school experience as a young man. So anyways, hopefully this video helps, and once again, don't break hearts, because what goes around comes around, and karma is a bitch.